Carol.
Good morning, Jody.
I realize what a handy name you have. It's just 2 syllables. Carol Coston.
Okay, good.
Of the fields, I might say, at least the fields in Adrian. Have you ever made the connection between our first 6 sisters that came to start the hospital? They're working in the 50 acres that were part of this deal that they had with the pastor in town. That you're now working in that same area.
That's right.
I mean, it's like coming full
It is.
full circle.
And where we have the sign out there talking about the Elm House is just where the permaculture beginning is, and the what do you call it, the asparagus patch and so on. So yeah, I do feel that connection. I also feel a great sort of honoring of our early foremothers who took the opportunity and the chance to go ahead and start something out here in this, for them, forsaken area.
Yeah, coming from New York and the cornfields of Adrian. How many acres are there for the campus?
Well, I understand there's just around 100, but that includes all the buildings and the land and the pavements and the sidewalks and so on. The area that we're working on for permaculture is about 7 acres, and it would begin as soon as you turn into the ring road and you pass Regina and you pass the DLC, and it goes down to just where that curve is to the cemetery.
Oh my.
It's enough for now.
Enough for now. And I remember reading where Mother Camilla thought the sisters were working and laboring too much. So let's start a school. And she imaged
So
the
that's
children.
not laboring much.
But you're continuing with the laboring.
That's right, the laboring for sure.
Where did your love of the earth develop?
Well, I grew up in Florida, and so my father and mother, took us to the ocean all the time, and my father would take us out in the boat, and I learned, to, not scuba dive at the beginning, but just to see all of the beauty of the fish and the variety and the diversity. So it was, and outside most of the time.
No wonder.
And then during World War II, we had a victory garden, so
yes.
I remember that.
That was the beginning.
And when I first came to Adrian, I thought, well, I'd like to start a garden. So I went around and collected cow patties, and not knowing that you just can't plant directly into manure, but I learned that soon enough.
Early on. What was your father's profession?
He was a plumbing and heating contractor.
Mm-hmm. Was this West Palm area?
Oh, yes. I was born and raised in West Palm Beach.
Oh, my.
I was born about 8 blocks from Rosarian Academy.
Well, where did you meet our sisters?
Well, I went to St. Anne's grade school.
All right, yes.
Up to the 9th grade, and then I went to the public high school.
Not Rosarian?
No.
Why did you choose the public high school?
Well, because I wanted to be on the swimming team and in a sorority and in a larger group of people.
Well, the swimming was your love, correct?
And diving.
Diving. When did you begin this lovely aquatic
Well, I can't remember when I
life?
couldn't swim, so it was just,
When
it
you were
came
young.
with, so I've been in pools all my life and jumped off a diving board when I was 3. And my mother was there, to catch me and so on. My father was a diver, and so.
Did you have dreams of going to the Olympics?
Oh, no.
But you could have,
I didn't
couldn't you?
have that fire in the gut to go to the Olympics. And so I thought that, I dived in high school.
You were in the water.
I was in the water a lot. I was on the swimming team and so on, but I didn't have any desire.
And didn't you bring honor to the swimming and diving team?
Well,
for Palm Beach High School.
Well, our girls relay team, did quite well, but then I won the senior AAU women's championship in springboard diving, 1 meter, and then also the high school AA, whatever that was, size of the high school. So.
Was that from the 10-foot board?
No. I liked the little board.
The 3-foot.
I honored my head. I never cottoned to the 3-meter board.
Oh,
I could do some dives off it, but it wasn't my preference.
So you graduated from West Palm.
Palm Beach High.
Palm Beach High. And where did your journey take you then?
I went to Florida State University for a year, and had a miserable year. I think I was in a very bad depression and couldn't, I did everything you were supposed to do to make yourself happy in college. I was
whatever that means.
Whatever that meant,
Yeah.
And
What was your goal, professional goal, when you began college?
well, that was part of the problem because I wanted to be something more than Mrs. Harry, somebody or other. I thought I wanted to I don't know, I just didn't know what it was, but I wanted to go and test all these things. I wanted to take all different courses, and of course I had an advisor, how they did, and they said, well, no, you have to take this and this and this in order to get this. And, it was like I wanted to explore, so, I started with a regular track, yeah.
Yeah, liberal arts, probably.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And you graduated then from the...
No, I left
Florida
after
State?
my first year. That's when I got my vocation.
And how did that
snatched
arrive?
by the hair of my head like Habakkuk. Well, my mother knew I was miserable, and she kept calling my best friend in high school saying, how's Carol doing? And she said, well, she's not doing very well. So anyway, I came back and she said, I'd like you to talk to this Jesuit priest. And so I went in to talk to him. And in that conversation, I think as I was exploring, I just thought, well, maybe I could become a nun.
Wow.
And learn how, really to learn how to connect with God, and it was so kind of out
And
of my reach.
become more holy.
Well, I didn't necessarily want to be holy. I wanted to. I knew that there was a creator spirit, and I wanted to connect with that, but I didn't know how. And
Were you a churchgoer at the time?
Not necessarily. I mean, we didn't. There was only one church and one Catholic school when I grew up. And so it was 5 miles away, and so it wasn't like nuns that talk about being across the street from church and, hearing all the church bells. That wasn't my background.
What about when you were at Florida State?
Well, when I finally started thinking, more along spiritual lines, I did get up and go to 6:30 Mass, and I was just impressed that there were a number of other students, and, including, football players and so on, just walking across the campus in the dark.
To go to Mass.
And that kind of impressed me. I mean, not just them, but others. And so I knew there was something in that field that probably appealed to me.
So the Jesuits' recommendation was?
Well, he was a Jesuit. He was a conservative Jesuit. I found out later. But anyway, he knew Sister Rita Gleason, Sister Ann Catherine. She was the principal and superior at Rosarian. So he said, well, why don't I take you up and talk to this sister? So he puts me in the car and we drive up to Rosarian, which is about 8 blocks away. And he just leaves me, he introduces me and then leaves me. So I said...
With this strange woman.
With a strange woman, right. And so, we went through what do you want and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, when I decided that's what I wanted to do, then I told her later, I said, that was the easiest postulant you ever got. You just sat there at your desk and get this person deposited in front of you.
Rita Gleason.
Yes.
The most gracious woman you'd ever
Well,
wanted.
right, and an excellent seamstress. She wanted to make sure that I had everything, really tidy.
For your
You'd always tell me, be clean and neat.
That's Rita.
So I tried, yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, so then that was beginning, and because my father was fairly upset about this decision, they decided, I think meaning Rita and or whoever the superior was, maybe Mother Gerald. Anyway, they sent me to Barry for a semester.
In the postulant outfit?
No, in my regular clothes. And I was such a late admission that it was like a little room. It was supposed to be a parlor. And it had folding doors, and they just stuck a bed and a dresser in it. So
at Barry.
Yeah, Barry. So it was like camping out. So,
Open
but anyway,
to the public.
Exactly. Well, maybe there wasn't a backup bathroom attached or anything. You had to just wend your way down the hall. So.
Well, did your father ever yield?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he was. He came to see me in Grosse Pointe, but. That was kind of a stiff visit, when you go into these, we're used to being out in the open all the time, in these Grosse Pointe, with the hanging drapes and the dark furniture. It's kind of spooky for both of us. But anyway, he came around and he helped me. when I was at Barry, it was the Marian year, and Marie Carol Hurley had written a play, a Marian play, and it included having women like, spinning or something, so we had to have something that looked like a spinning thing. So he helped me figure out how to do that. And then whoever was superior then said, well, she can dance, but you can't do anything with lifting your legs or something. So I said, the only dance I know how to do without moving your legs is a dirty boogie. So I said, I didn't think that would be appropriate.
No, not with a play about Mary.
Exactly. So, but anyway, I think he would love, what we're doing now. And so he seemed pretty impressed with the way we got organized. So.
And what was his lifespan, Carol?
He was killed in a plane accident when he was 53.
Oh.
He was in the Bahamas, and I think he wanted to start a branch of the business in the Bahamas. And so he was on one island flying to, I think, Nassau. But anyway, it was so kind of primitive that they just had cars pull out and put their lights on, for a kind of a makeshift runway. So no, we don't know what it was. It just went up in the air and came down, and all 4 passengers, he had 3 passengers. And so it was very shocking. I was in Puerto Rico, and
you were already in the habit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. The time I got to Puerto Rico, I was in the habit. But it was, I answered the phone, it was about midnight, and, it's just a kind of a terrible call to get. And then you think you've just heard things that you were dreaming and so on. But anyway, the nuns all got up, and I was on my way over the mountain from San Antonio to Santurce. So.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
Shock.
It was,
yes. And weren't you named a religious name after your father, too?
Yes, Clarence. Sister Mary Clarence. It was not in great demand.
I bet he was proud, though.
I think he probably was,
Yes.
yes. In fact, he told somebody who was an Italian Catholic, and he was trying to explain to him, everybody called my father Cocky. Mm-hmm. He said, well, Cocky, you just go to confession, and that's everything's taken care of. And he didn't understand that at all. Mm-hmm. So finally he just said, well, Carol's my ace in the hole.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah, well.
And he meant that.
I guess so. He thought, if I can't get in the usual way.
Did your mother have a long life?
Yeah, she was 84 when she died.
And what was her name, Carol?
Sally, Sarah Cotton, yeah.
Oh.
She had her pilot's license, and they flew during the war, the Civil Air Patrol, up and down the state of Florida to look for German submarines. And they'd have these big blue bombs kind of strapped on the belly of, I don't know how they were supposed to let it loose, but anyway, she and her best friend, they flew, and they had their Civil Air Patrol outfits on and stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
My. Well, you were probably in grade school at that time.
Right, yeah, I was in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So I was born in 35, mm-hmm. and the war was, like 41, 44, whenever it ended.
Well, I would suspect that you absorbed love of the poor and marginated and those who were treated unjustly from your parents. Would you say that?
Well, I learned some of it, yes. I mean, I think that...
What are some of the things your father gave as an example to you?
Well, he hired a number of African Americans, and I mean, they were part of his business, mm-hmm. and I mean, I didn't see that they were treated any differently. I mean, if they had problems, then he would try to go take care of it. My mother started the first Head Start Center in Florida, and I remember I was in Washington at the time, and we went to see, what's his name, the one that started the Peace Corps, but before that he was...
Shriver?
Yeah, Sergeant Shriver.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said to him, she's doing exactly what we're trying to do in this, the war on poverty and the whole notion of early childhood education. So she got a leftover grant from Atlanta, and then after that, she got a number of grants. And so it was in Boynton Beach. And, but I think one of the things that I remember from grade school that was just kind of a searing experience is there was a girl in my class, and we had these little blue uniforms or something. Anyway, she came to Easter Sunday with just an old gray, faded out uniform, and I could kind of hear the titters around. And it just made me so angry. I thought, what is this that you have to get dressed up to, to be respected or something. And so I think I've always had an antipathy against Easter dresses ever since then. It's just like, it's kind of like a class thing or something.
But that you were able to recognize that injustice early on, that's quite remarkable. At least when I compare it to my life and what you've done through the years.
Yeah.
You were in the classroom, though, weren't you?
Yeah, I taught for a lot of years.
Yeah, and your first experience was
horrible. I was sent to Grosse Pointe, and I wanted to be going to the islands or somewhere
to work with the poor.
Work with the poor, and they were pretty well off in Grosse Pointe, and teaching second grade, for which I had no taught skills, and I had diarrhea every Monday morning. So just going back into that classroom.
You must have lost a lot of weight.
I did. I lost 17 pounds. But it's just a horrible thing to teach 3 different classes in reading and arithmetic and something else. And you had to have all these silly little things they cut out and paste. Supposed to be meaningful class work or busy work or something. I just wished I'd known about Montessori then. Or if we'd had a Montessori class, I would have felt much more comfortable.
Yeah.
In fact, the only time I felt like I was in control was when we had the school play. And I could teach the second graders how to tumble and the girls how to twirl a baton. The rest of the time I felt inadequate.
So you knew you were teaching
I
then.
could do that, yeah.
So how long did you stay with this?
This horrible year of teaching? Just 1 year. Then
1 year.
1 year, thank God.
Oh,
and then I was sent to Puerto Rico, which I loved.
Well, who were some of our women that you lived with there?
Well, Margot Ruiz, so we've remained friends all these years, and Maria Josefina, what's her name?
I forget her last
Anyway,
name. Yeah.
Don't test me on names like this, but
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, and Madeline Sophie was there at some point, so.
And did you have
Jane Rosaria Fish, and she was in Santurce. Pardon me?
Did you were you teaching in the grade school at that time?
No, I went from
Second
teaching
grade.
second grade inadequately to teaching senior English, junior English, sophomore religion, biology, general science, and freshman something or other. So
How did
it was
you do with the general science?
not well. Sister Samuel would help me, get kind of maybe a step ahead, and then I taught the biology, sort of again trying to get a chapter ahead. But what's so ironic about that is a friend of mine who went to Puerto Rico afterwards, and she taught English, which was her field, and she said somebody came in to see her about her little sister. She said, she just can't keep up with you. She says, now I had Sister Clarence for biology, and she went very slowly. And, made sure we all understand what she was saying. I can't go past this page anyway,
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank God for Sister Samuel, Evangeline Davis.
Evangeline Davis,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
She gave me some modicum of
Yes,
experience.
sanity. And then any other mission after that?
Well, I was in Puerto Rico 3 years, and then that's when my father was killed, so they brought me back, up to the States, which was nice, because my mother was, really upset. So
I would imagine. You have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother and one sister.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And they
the
live
oldest.
in Florida?
Yes, he still lives. He lives out near Lake Okeechobee, and my sister lives in Loxahatchee, which is west of West Palm Beach.
And are they water lovers also?
Well, my brother, likes being in a boat all the time. He lives on a kind of canal and is very close to Lake Okeechobee. So, and
what is his name?
David.
David. And your
My
sister?
sister's Linda.
Linda.
My mother wanted all single, like 2-syllable names for some reason.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen. I have a sense that you were in Tampa at some point.
Yes, you have a good sense.
Yeah,
Geographically, you're on point.
Yes.
I was at Tampa for 6 years. I went there after I came back. We had a chance to go to Europe and so on. But anyway, I was there from like the 61 to 70, I think. Yeah, 71. And I was teaching high school during the Vietnam War, civil rights, and so on. So,
Oh my.
yeah, it was a good experience because, you could make a point. It was also the time of the Civil Rights Act, and so on. And we were just starting to integrate the school. And I felt very strongly that, especially the African American, young people needed to have speech skills so that they, could take their place, in leadership roles and so on. And I still have a very good friend who was in the classes that I taught. And she's now the head of the Afrikaner Studies at University of South Florida. So I'm real proud of her.
Be proud,
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, she even came on a trip with me to Ecuador because she was doing research on micro-enterprise development. And she just happened to hear somebody when she was working with a congressperson whose skill area was in micro-enterprise, small business development. And so somebody said, well, if you're really interested in this and you want to know like what religious groups are, you should meet Carol Coston because she's doing this kind of investing. So anyway, she said, say that again, and then she called me, and she said she was so nervous that I wouldn't remember. I said, Cheryl, of course I remembered you. So she came up to see me. When I was doing Partners for the Common Good, and so we've connected ever since.
When you mentioned Partners for the Common Good,
what is that?
Yes, a little paragraph, please.
Well, remember I was on the Portfolio Advisory Board since '75, and so a lot of the things that we did were like shareholder resolutions. But when that started, it was, like 70s, 75, 70s. We weren't getting really good responses. I mean, if you got like a 1.5% of the shareholder votes, you could reintroduce. And so it's very hard to feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
Oh, we got a 1.5% of the shareholder. But so then we started to do what we, at that point, called alternative investing, which meant that we were looking for something different, but about how the portfolio was invested, and to invest in something that was being proactive, positively. And so we started finding small credit unions. We invested in South Shore Bank and so on. So I had been doing that I think I was on that board for 14 years. Oh, and so then Sister Pat Daly, who's a Dominican of Caldwell, she was working for the Christian Brothers, and they were getting requests from their participants about having an alternative investing fund. So she recommended that, they hire me as a consultant. So that's how that happened, yeah.
And the rest is history in that score, isn't it?
Well, I did that for 12 years.
12 years.
And I think
Where did you live while you were doing?
Well, I lived in Silver Spring, Maryland, and then I just was able to take the whole activity to Texas, because with that job, all you needed was a phone and a computer and an airport, So.
Well, what were you doing in Maryland?
What was I doing in San Antonio, Maryland?
No, Maryland, first
in
of all.
Silver Spring, I was with Network for, I was one of the founders, and so I was there, as a director for 10 years, and then I stayed on the board, and so I was there.
That was formed after Vatican II, wasn't it?
Right. Well, Network, the first meeting to talk about it was in December of '71, and it was right after the Statement on Justice had been written, and the Popolorum Progressio and so on. So it was like I felt in sync with, the whole Catholic social justice teaching.
Well, how did this group form then that we call Network today? Was it a group of sisters?
No, it was, well, you could characterize it as kind of a seat-of-the-pants operation, because the Monsignor Gino Baroni, who was very active, he helped start the Campaign for Human Development. He knew a number of sisters, and he said, I think it'd be good if we had a place for sisters to create an organization that would have a Washington representative or in an office, and then, send out information about Congress, so that, we were talking about the war and all these demonstrations, but the way to stop the war was to stop the money.
Yes.
So then you have to get into, well, that's an appropriations, and who's on the appropriations committee, and then trying to teach that to the network members, which ultimately, it's much larger organization now, but at that point it was mostly women religious. So I was at that meeting and then volunteered to be on the board, and then the next month we came back to Washington, and there were about like eight or nine women religious from different congregations. And I mean, the only criteria to be on the board is that you wanted to do it and you could get back to Washington. It wasn't like, you went through some kind of vetting process. So anyway, I came back, and then they were at the point where they said, well, if we want to move this, we have to get a person. So that's kind of how. So they looked around, and, they said, well, would you be willing to do it? Well, I was willing to do it, but I said, I have to ask permission. I mean, I can't just, leave. I had a paying job with the war on poverty in Fort Lauderdale. So I said, well, let me see if I can find the major superiors. So I started calling around and finally connected with Sister Rosemary in Ferguson in California. She was our prioress at that time. So I explained briefly, kind of what we wanted to do, and she said, well, it sounds like a good idea. And of course, this was after the renewal and so on, and so it was kind of an open time. So she said, check with your, local provincial. So, I did. But anyway, I went back to the group, and she said yes. And they were astounded. They said, in my congregation, probably I'd had to put a proposal in, and then about 5 weeks later they say, well, no, that went to the next level, and now you can meet with the group, and so that just to get it over the phone was wonder. I mean, I credit Rosemary and that council for being willing to, I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was making more than people teaching in the Catholic school at that time, so I just left that and came to Washington. So.
You had known Sister Rosemary before, though, hadn't
Oh,
you?
yeah, she packed my trunk from.
Well, how did that happen?
Well, she was at Rosarian when I, got this vocation, and Sister Rita Gleason, Ann Catherine at the time, was the principal and superior. So she asked Sister Lawrence Edward, Rosemary, if she would pack this trunk for this postulant. So she did. She got all the things. There were some very astute business people that made a lot of money on nuns' long nightgowns and,
Jamesons.
Jamesons, whatever it was, So, anyway, so the trunk packed.
Oh, my. And it was on the way. Did anyone come with you when you entered?
No. My mother's relatives were up near Pittsburgh, so we went there before I entered, and so I could entertain the family with my long nun's nightgown and all that kind of stuff. And then it was a big, huge snowstorm, so it was kind of hectic trying to get to the airport on time. And so I finally got there, and you went out on the runway in those days. You didn't have these terminals, and so the plane was ready to leave by the time we got there. So I just shot down and ran across the tarmac and up to the plane, and then I remembered I had my aunt's boots on. So it was very dramatic. So I pulled them off at the top of the runway, flung them on.
What about the coat?
I think maybe I flung the coat too, because I figured when I got to wherever I went, there would be something. But anyway, my mother, of course, chose that moment that I did that to go to the bathroom. so she comes racing. She's there, her little face at the window, waving plaintively. But anyway, so then Sister Brigetta picked me up at the airport. Because she'd been at Rosarian, was a friend of Rita Gleason or Ann Catherine. So we went with her nephew into Adrian, and her nephew, was a high schooler driving, and so she was going, all these prayers all the time. Oh, Jesus, Mary, Mother of God's Sacred Heart, save us, watch out for that car, It's like the poor kid was
very Irish.
Very Irish. So anyway, we were blessed all the way, and so. And I got here, and I've been here ever since.
You've been here, and happily, I would imagine.
Happily, very happily. Yeah.
Amazing that.
Well, there were restrictions, and everybody has her ups and downs, but it's like I never felt unable to do skills and things that some was asked to do, and some that I was able to do, but to be supported, and that's very positive.
And with your creativity too, and it was all focused on the poor and
certainly
justice.
Not teaching second grade.
Excuse me, second grade. We have a young sister now, Sister Catherine, in the novitiate.
Oh, right, yeah.
What words of wisdom would you have for her?
Well, I think, to just keep a positive attitude and be grateful for the vocation and, use whatever skills or aptitudes you have, and that, to kind of throw your lot in with, that's what we did. And, so it's like a mutuality, and I think, cooperation and like doing your part.
Amen. One last thing, Carol. You had the privilege of visiting the White House during the presidency of Bill Clinton.
Right.
And that was for what reason?
Well, it was to get the Presidential Citizenship Award for good behavior as a citizen.
I thought maybe it was going to be for swimming.
Yeah, no. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience, and it was like the last week Clinton was in office, because it was 2001, and he was ready to, head on out. And so I got this notice that there was going to be this award given, and I could have a certain number of guests. So the nicest part was that a number of the Adrian Dominicans that were in my mission group or that were, in Washington at the time were able to come. And,
was Sister Mary Philip able to come?
Yes, in fact, no, she wasn't able to come for that. She came for another award, but she did send this with Rosemary. So I've treasured it ever since.
Oh,
that.
my.
Anyway, Rosemary was very excited about it, so she came, and Barbara Wall and Noreen Cameron came from Philadelphia, and then a lot of the mission group. And
Now, exactly what was the name of the award?
well,
for
it was
what
the
you,
Presidential Citizenship Award. And,
for your work?
Well, it's like an honor. It's like the second highest honor. I think the Medal of Honor is the top drawer. But it was for, the work in women's issues and alternative investing and the lobby group and stuff like that. So, but it was a fun time.
Did you think of your parents at all at that time?
Yeah.
How proud they might be?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know we were very proud.
Well, I mean, I think what I liked the most was having so many of my friends with
Yeah,
me.
yes.
And so
Like
we stayed. Elise Garcia was there. We were living together at the time, and her parents had a house near American U. So we had this huge postmenopausal slumber party. We brought up, I think, 4 blow-up mattresses from Texas. They were spread out on the floor, and
Everyone
Rosemary
had a space.
Well, Rosemary got the special bed. She had the chronological, and others came too. But my friend Maureen Kelleher and Nancy Sylvester, in different congregations, they were very active in early network, so they were there. And then I met my whole mission group, as many as could came.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'd like to thank, in the name of all your friends, for your gracious presence and your joy and your integrity, which is without bounds.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carol.
It may be without bounds, but I barely get to places on time. So.